welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that's perfectly balanced as all things should be. My name is Isaac Edlin. I'm going to be your host tonight, and I have one very special guest with me. It is Frank from the Geek Freaks and Challenge Accepted podcast. Welcome to the show, Frank.
Hey, everybody. Thank you very much for having me on.
It is a pleasure. We just had Thomas, your co-host from Challenge Accepted, on last week's episode 193 of the Infinity Bros podcast, and it was a blast to chat with him. And he gave us a hot tip that you've got a lot to say about Halo Season 2. So
I'm 1 week cooled down, folks, so we'll go with that. Yeah.
Yeah, we got the cooled down Frank. If you want the fired up Frank, you got to go listen to their review of Season 2 of Halo. So make sure you go check that out. We'll put some links in the show notes as well. But thank you so much for being on, Frank. We are very excited to have you. It's been awesome getting to know you through social media and seeing all your guys' news and videos and stuff like that. I was just telling Frank on the Patreon exclusive version of the podcast, which you can check out the show notes for, that he does some incredible news updates and very, very quick. Like, honestly, a lot of the times the first I see of the news is your guys' stuff. So great job on getting the nerd news out there.
It's a personal goal. We usually text each other if we could beat IGN. That's our goal in life, is to beat IGN.
Beat IGN. Yeah, I love that. That's a great goal. And content wise, I feel like you guys are at least on par with IGN. They got some wonky
They got
ratings,
a big staff, that's for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I appreciate you guys and glad to finally meet you in person. Absolutely. Or via video screen, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. Excited to have you on.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I've seen you guys for so long, and I love your guys' TikToks and everything like that, and of course the episodes themselves. And make sure you guys follow the links in the description. Go to the Patreon where we talked about a bunch of different things. It's great chatting. And I'm so glad to finally be here.
Yeah. Talked a little Star Wars, a little Bad Batch.
Yes.
Probably talked a little bit too much about Halo since we're going to be talking about that later.
Oh, that's all right. There's more to go.
All that stuff. Oh, there's definitely more to be said about it. So,
we talked about the Cowboys too. If you guys want some real serious takes, there we go.
All right, fellow Cowboys fan here. I'm very excited to hear that. So,
heck yeah.
Suck it, all you Eagles fans.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but I got to know you a little bit on the Patreon exclusive, but we have a special segment that we're going to get to know you a little better that I did not prepare you for, Frank. It is our Infinity Gauntlet.
Are you a heel or a baby face? If you could make any flavored Cheez-It, what would it be? Is it pronounced Grogu or Groku? If Keanu Reeves isn't in the movie, can it be star-studded? It's time for the Infinity Gauntlet, here on the Infinity Bros podcast.
And as a listener of the Infinity Bros podcast, you knew this was coming. But for our new listeners, this is a segment that we just get to know our guests a little bit better. Each of the Infinity Bros fires a question to Frank, and he answers them to the best of his abilities. Hopefully, he does not get cut off of the podcast, and I don't have to finish this all by myself. So we'll see how it goes. Are you ready for this, Frank?
I'm so ready.
All right. Okay. Number one is from Infinity Bros Zane. He says, if you could take one horror icon character and put them in a romance or a rom-com, what icon are you taking and what movie are you putting them in?
Let's get Mike Myers and let's put him in 50 First Dates. Yeah.
There'll be a lot of chase scenes in that.
Every day he's just outside of the window with a butcher knife, and she's done. As soon as she's done with the VHS, she's like, "Oh, okay, I gotta run." And so, and I like the idea that Mike's not actually trying to kill her; he just wants to have fun every day. So he's like, let's reset this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's definitely fun for him at least.
Yeah.
So. Oh, that's a great one. That's a great answer. Love that. All right, number two. This is from Infinity Bro Mark. He says, if you could be in a fully immersible video game, what would you pay top dollar for?
Oh, God, I hate to be so basic, but it's World of Warcraft. Just plug me in, and then you could just leave the room. I'm okay.
You get the full, Ready Player One, treadmill setup, and you're just going at it in World of Warcraft, huh?
Yep. Let me choose what class. I'll be a hunter, and I'll be out there in Azeroth, happy as a bug. That Ready Player One, we talk about a lot on our podcast. We're ready for it.
I feel like that would be a kind of terrifying game to like be fully immersed into with
That's true.
everything that's coming out to get you
There's
and
a lot of
stuff
undead
like
now that
that.
I'm thinking about it. That's not great. And that'll, yeah,
Well,
that's
nope,
fair.
too late. You already made your choice. Can't
No,
take it back.
shoot.
All right. Last one here. This one is from myself. If a studio handed you an unlimited budget and told you to create an original superhero themed video game, what
Okay.
would it be?
Is the hero original or is it just like any
It
hero?
can be original hero. It can be just a game that is different from any other superhero
I
game that
see.
we've seen before. What would you pick?
That's such a great question. I'm gonna have to go with Constantine, and the
Ooh.
unlimited budget. I would want to make hell endless, and so you could dip into hell anywhere, have all kinds of different layers to it, and make different allies. Because that's Constantine's best move is that he makes allies on both sides of the table, and
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool. And
That
then you
would
could
be
have him
sweet.
also go to heaven. Like you could have him kind of have to deal with all realms, and he's the great balance in the DC world, not just like, oh, I'm rooting for one side or not. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Constantine is
Constantine,
one of those underrated characters that could
definitely.
absolutely do with a solid video game adaptation.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
I think Matt Ryan, by the way, did a great job playing him too on the CW verse, and
Yeah.
deserves a movie for sure.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. I think he did do a solid job as well. Like, and honestly, the old like Keanu Reeves Constantine movie is solid too. Like, I mean, I feel like they took a decent amount of liberties with with that
They're making a
character.
sequel to that one, by the way.
Yeah,
So,
I heard that. That's amazing. But still, it was like it was a pretty solid, enjoyable movie. I remember enjoying that one.
oh yeah, I'll watch it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, that's it. You passed the Infinity Gauntlet. Great
Thank
job,
God.
Frank. You did it, and I'd say you passed with flying colors. So, welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast.
Score.
Yeah, thanks for being on. New listeners, if you are listening to the very first time, we are the Infinity Bros. We're a group of 6 guys who kind of rotate being on the podcast. We also have a lot of Magic the Gathering content out there. If you're on TikTok, Robbie, Infinity Bro Robbie does a lot. He's also selling stuff on Drip, which is going to be in the show notes as well. So if you're into Magic the Gathering, make sure you drop by his Drip stream with the link in the show notes. You can get up to $250 in free Drip credit, so you can buy stuff from Robbie.
There
So
you go.
it's a pretty good deal. Free stuff. I mean, who doesn't
I
like
mean,
free
yeah,
stuff,
how
right?
could you complain? By the
Yeah,
way, he's
exactly.
also watching every episode of One Piece, and if you want to see an angry
He
fan
is.
base, check out his comments.
Yeah, dude. One Piece. Okay, so I'm not like an anime guy, but like
Yeah.
the One Piece fandom is strong, and I did
Oh, I
not
stay away
know
from
this at all.
it.
I did not know this at all. I was completely oblivious to One Piece until like the live action version
Yeah,
came out. Just generally being around nerds and like geeks and stuff. Obviously, I
right.
like hear about it. Never watched the show. Never watched read any of the
Same
manga
for me. Yeah.
or anything like that. And Robbie, the story is he watched the live action, had never watched the anime before, and then he was like, "Oh, this is really good. Like, I think I want to start watching the anime, but it's 1,000 episodes long. Like, it's ridiculous. And the manga itself has been running for what, like 15 years or
I don't
something
know.
like that.
It's
Like
such
some
an investment.
ridiculous. It's huge, just massive. So he's like, I mean, this is a huge task. So he started this like kind of like watch along. Every once in a while he gives updates on his One Piece journey. And yeah, it's wild, dude. Those One Piece reaction videos get like exponentially more views and likes and
Really?
comments than pretty much all of our other content.
Yeah.
The One Piece fandom shows up and
Yeah.
they are very passionate.
Honestly, any anime news that comes out, I'm always like, oh, here comes a bump in the ratings. Here we go, baby. Whenever
Here
there's
we
something for
go.
Fortnite or for anime, I'm like, all right, let's make sure those are in the title.
Yep, that's a pretty good guess. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you're into any of that stuff, come follow us on social media. You can also hit up theinfinitybros.com for all of your Infinity Bros needs. So, jam-packed show today. We are talking some nerd news, first of all. Then we are going to dive into Halo Season 2, which you already mentioned at the top of the show. And then we're also going to be talking Invincible a little bit, probably focusing more on this recent episode that came out this week. But we haven't really talked about it since on the podcast since I think they broke for the end or the beginning of the first
Okay.
part of season
Yeah,
2.
some catching
So
up to do.
yeah, we'll catch up a little bit, talk about episode 7, and then the finale is coming out next week. So talk a little bit about the expectations for finale of season 2, which is kind of crazy to think that it's already the finale. Like
That's so
it feels
fast.
like it's just started. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
wow, okay, all right, here we go then. But yeah, gonna have some discussion about Invincible. So we'll try to put some timestamps in the show notes so you guys can go straight to those if that's what you're here for. But for those of you who are new listeners, we have a very special rating system on the Infinity Bros podcast.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
So we might go through a few of those, maybe not in nerd news for sure. We'll rate our Halo and Invincible experiences. So that's how we do things on the Infinity Bros podcast. So Frank, you ready to dive into some nerd news?
Oh, heck yeah.
Hey, Zane, I was looking into getting into this Gunpla thing. There's one called the Unicorn Banshee. What the heck is that all about? Actually, Jarrett, what you're thinking of is RX-0 Unicorn Gundam 2 Banshee, which is from the Mobile Suit Gundam. Actually, you know what? It's time for nerd news.
And you're a great guy to have on for new news. You're on top of all this stuff. I
try to be.
remember I sent you the outline. I was like, you've already covered like half of this stuff on
Yeah.
your socials and stuff like that. So you know what we're talking about. Number one actually is an addition that I put on here. Very sad news today. Chance Perdomo, a 27-year-old actor who has kind of been known for The Boys spinoff Gen V and for Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, passed away in a motorcycle accident today. So not a whole lot of details about that right now. It sounds like he was the only casualty in the accident. But yeah, really sad, as the dude is a phenomenal actor and had a really bright future. 27 years old.
27 years old. I mean, it's just so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I remember, of course, Gen V is probably my main source on him, but um, talented and worked well with others. It's such a rare talent to find somebody who has skill and compassion for their co-hosts or co-stars, and Chance had both those.
Yeah, just really sad news. Rest in peace, and prayers and thoughts going out to his family and friends. So,
Yep.
Chance Perdomo, 27 years old, passed away today. And that is, we're recording on March 30th, 2024. Just came out this afternoon, I believe. So,
Yeah.
sad stuff. Next up, we've got Marvel Rivals, which is really great news. That is a new game that Marvel is putting out, a 6v6 multiplayer player versus player game. And basically they put out a trailer, which I think they put out like a promo image and then like almost immediately released a trailer. So this is all like, unless you're an insider in the video game industry, this is all like, whoa, brand new stuff. Had no clue this was coming out, but it looks fantastic and it looks very much similar to Overwatch. So what did you think about this trailer? What are you excited for?
I mean, just for the art alone, I was excited, right? The way that, I mean, it's just
Right.
this really cool art style. And
Yeah.
what I love too is every piece of marketing says 6 vs 6, which is just stealing Overwatch fans right off the bat, because Overwatch switched to a 1 tank system, a 5v5 system, maybe about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And there is no single player that's been happy with that. So as me and my buddy are both tanks, so we were definitely not happy about it because one of us had to not be a tank. And so when they're like 6v6 right off the bat, it's like, oh, all right, we're coming, baby. And you could see there are some distinct moves. I could tell already that like Doctor Strange is going to be a support, things like that. And Loki looks like he could transition into other characters, because we see in the trailer he transitions into Black Panther and does his ultimate. So
that's
there's a lot of
awesome.
things that I'm pretty excited about on this one.
Yeah, and we saw in the trailer there's a bunch of like team up moves, which they call like dynamic hero synergy. Totally got the Ultimate Alliance vibes from that, where you like team up and do your ultimate like move or whatever. I was like, oh yeah, I'm all in on that. And I'm not like generally a big like multiplayer PvP guy, but this is free to play, number one.
Right.
And it's Marvel. So I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm in. Obviously, maybe this will help me just like dive into the world of PvP. I don't know.
Yeah, the only time I really care about PvP is when it's really team based, and that's definitely what this has
Mhm.
got going on for it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
dynamic environment as well. So if you like shoot at a wall, the wall will come down. That's going to be a lot. That means that this thing's running on like an Unreal Engine 5 kind of thing. The only thing that concerns me is the NetEase of it all. So NetEase is the developer behind
Mhm.
this,
Yeah,
mostly known for mobile games, gotcha games. So we'll see how this goes. I know there's been some fans already saying like, "Oh, why is this not on consoles? Because it's on PC only."
yeah,
NetEase is known for mobile, so I would suspect that this goes console or this goes PC then mobile, not necessarily on console. But we'll see. It's Marvel behind
yeah,
it, so
yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and with the Marvel backing, you would assume that it will come to consoles eventually. How
eventually, yeah,
long that gap is going to be might be significant just based on how NetEase handles all of the alpha testing, all that
yeah.
stuff. So we'll see. But I'm very excited. I'm going to sign up for there's a closed alpha that's starting in May.
Hmm.
Definitely going to be signing up for that, and hopefully we'll be able to get a little taste of gameplay and see what it's all about. So
Sign up is
looks
super
awesome.
fast. I already signed up for it.
Let's
Looking
go.
forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think
that is
about
awesome.
Galactica at the end though? That's whew, I was like,
That was
whoa,
a deep
what?
dive, right? Like
Yeah.
I like actually saw I saw somebody post about this is how I ended up seeing the Marvel Rivals trailer. I saw somebody post about Galacta and I was like, what? Like what
Yeah.
why am I seeing Galacta on my
Yeah.
feed? For non-Marvel fans, Galacta is a daughter of Galactus that appears like 3 times
Yeah.
in the comics. Like she is a very, very, very minor character.
I know.
So I saw that and I was like, what the heck? And then I like went back to the source, saw the trailer, and I was like, okay, well, fantastic. Number one trailer. Galacta? Why? I have no clue. But
I
like,
know it's like an observer situation. Like you need somebody to be the all-seeing like
mhm,
play
right,
thing, but take an active role because the observers wouldn't take an active role. But
right.
this person needs to like literally pluck Iron Man and say smash against Hulk or something like that. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And they say that NetEase has kind of written like a storyline. There's like a
Yeah.
clash between Doctor Doom from the year 2099 and the current Doctor Doom, and they're like pitting these teams against each other and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
it'll be interesting to see more details come about. But yeah, Galacta, I was like, that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
I've seen her like on social media. That's how I know her. I was like,
Right.
I don't understand what this has to do with Marvel Rivals, but all right, here we go.
I'm
Guess
on
we'll
board.
find out. But yeah, that'll be really fun. Definitely going to try to dive into that, and we'll hopefully have some stuff to report later in the year.
Yeah.
Next thing up, this is actually news that came out a couple weeks ago, but haven't gotten around to it on the podcast, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Joker 2, a musical set list leaked. And I mean, leaks, you always are like,
Yeah.
yeah, like sketch, like whatever. But like Variety reported on it.
I know.
So
Yeah.
so it's a pretty set thing. Like this is probably happening, right?
Right.
So Joker 2, first of all, I want to get your thoughts. What was your reaction when you found out that Joker 2 is going to be a musical?
Yeah, it took some getting used to. I'll admit. My first reaction was like, "What the hell?" But after watching Joker 1 again recently, it hit me how much there's actually quite a bit of like dancing in that movie, and he's always dancing alone
True,
without a
true.
partner. And I
Hmm.
think that one of the themes for Joker 2 will be him finding that dancing partner, and
Hmm.
therefore music will play a big part of it. So
Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy's got some of the best. It's got the best soundtrack in the world. I would never have thought that
that's
before
true.
going in. So
That's true.
maybe.
Definitely was a little shocked just with the dark, heavy themes in the first Joker movie. I'm like, how do you turn that into a musical? Like,
Yeah.
obviously there are musicals out there that are a little bit darker and have heavier themes, but I just don't understand it. I don't get how they're how they're doing this.
Yeah.
And Todd Phillips must have a vision because he basically was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna do a sequel if I'm not like set on it. Like he's
Right.
not gonna do a forced sequel, basically. Like not gonna let WB or whoever is backing these movies to
Yeah.
make him make another sequel. So like he's all in on
Right.
this.
And he got the approval for this at a time when WB didn't know what they were doing. So it was
Yeah,
kind of like,
true.
look, Joker 1 was fine, so here you go. Like, just give us more money, please, because we're confused. And
Yeah.
that'll be good. I wonder if the musical part of this is kind of like making it feel like Joker and Harley Quinn are so disjointed from the world around them. Like the fact that it's such a
Mhm.
dark world and they're sitting there singing and dancing might make them feel a little bit more like crazy than everybody around them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't This is going to be a weird experiment, and it might be one of those movies that I just have to like go in with no expectations
Yeah.
because I just don't understand how this is going to work.
Yeah.
We'll see. But anyways, we got Joaquin Phoenix coming back as Joker,
Hmm.
which is great because he was
Yeah.
fantastic in the
Nailed it.
first one. Lady Gaga is coming on as Harley Quinn. So, I mean, if you're going to get somebody to be in a musical,
That's the
you might
one.
as well get Lady Gaga, right? I
Yeah.
guess.
And set photos look pretty good, honestly. I think she looks pretty good in
Yeah.
all the set photos. Yeah. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
they all look great. I mean, and that was one thing about like Joker. Like, I think the most people that didn't like Joker were more up in arms that it was such a dark and kind of distressing movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't that it wasn't is very well made. Like making wise, I think it won some Oscars. If
It
I
feels like a
remember
best
correctly, or
director,
is nominated. It
honestly.
was nominated. I
Okay.
don't know
Yeah.
if it won any, but it's definitely nominated for a few. But like it was very well produced, like very well made.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really has questions about that. But just yeah, man, I don't know, it'll be really interesting to see. But there was several songs on there that just made me scratch my head a little bit. One is said to be That's Entertainment from the
Yeah.
1953 musical The Bandwagon. There's a few original songs on there. There's a song by Jake Paul.
I
I saw his name, I was like,
Yeah.
what are
Right
we
off the
doing
bat.
here?
Yeah.
What are we doing? I don't
I thought the
understand it.
bandwagon one was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. And I will say, most of these songs are not well known songs,
Right.
which is probably a good thing. Because I feel like if you're doing, really well known songs, it can easily just turn into like a cash grab type of movie.
Mhm.
So I don't know, man. All the details about this just seem so odd to me, and I guess we'll have to wait and see the first trailer to find out what it's going to be like.
The original songs, I think, were going to be obvious. Like, if you're going to get somebody like Lady Gaga, she's going to be singing. So I'm sure there's going to be some songs
Right?
from her.
Exactly.
And then if it was too many poppy songs, then I'd be a little concerned that we're getting into kind of the poppy movies, and we don't want that. We want the
Yeah,
weird,
that would be such a
songs.
drastic change in
Yeah.
direction from the first movie. Like, I just don't. Yeah, that's another reason why I just don't get how this is going to work. But
Right.
maybe they'll make it work. I don't know.
I don't
Who
know.
knows?
So Todd Phillips, when he went to Joker, his whole inspiration was to do a Martin Scorsese film. And then I'm like, okay, so when has Martin ever done a musical? Never. So I'm like, okay, now
Right?
I need to
Never.
go back and actually look through some of Martin Scorsese movies and see like when has he ever been
Mhm.
lighthearted? Maybe there's
Well,
something
I
there.
mean, if his sole inspiration is Martin Scorsese, that is weird. But we did get Steven Spielberg directing West Side Story, like whatever it was, 3-4
Right.
years ago. So there is probably some changes in direction that you could take, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, man. This so much of this
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense to me. So it'll be weird.
It's gonna be one of those things where we watch it and it's like the best decision ever made. But it just seems so weird now. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Last piece of nerd news that I want to talk about is we have Faye Dalton, who is
Mhm.
an artist that does stuff for Magic the Gathering. Actually was confirmed to have stolen some art, or accused, I should say. Confirmed. I don't know if he's actually come out and said anything about it, but there's a bunch of people that saw this Trouble in Pairs card that had just recently come out, and they thought it looked really similar. So they did a deep dive in the art, and it looks eerily similar, almost exact, to some artwork that Donato Giancola did for Cyberpunk 2020.
Mhm.
So after doing a deep dive and Reddit, like, this is what Reddit does. I mean, they just like go deep and find every single aspect of everything. I think there was on that specific card, there was like 6 different aspects of art that they could pick out from other artists.
Yeah.
So like pretty sketch.
I know. And just
Pretty
yesterday, some
sketch.
more came out too. Like he copied this lion and
Yeah.
Johnny Goldmain or whatever, and
Yeah.
you're
Uh-huh.
like, oh yeah, that's exactly right. Actually, it's crazy.
Right. Yeah, and Donato Giancola actually called it out on social media. I think that's what brought it to most people's attention, is that he basically says like he's ready to take legal action, because that Cyberpunk one, like that's pretty blatant. Some of this other stuff is like, I don't
Oh
know
yeah,
how these Redditors like found it, because they must have had to like do some really extensive like image like searching to find all that stuff.
yeah.
It still looks pretty sketch and pretty. I'm pretty sure that he probably did steal a lot of that art, but at the same time, it's like, holy crap! Like, how far does this go? Like, how long has
Yeah.
he been doing this?
And there's no
You know?
denying it too. When you see it, even the original card, they look out of place almost, like somebody like clip arted them
Right.
together. It's pretty obvious when you see it. There's no denying it.
Right.
So there must have been somebody who was just a cyberpunk fan that was like, wait a minute, I know her, and was able to put the two and two together.
Right. And then you go even further than Dave Fulton. Like, how many artists are doing this for MTG cards? Because you wonder, like, if these were approved, right? Like, obviously they're not doing a ton of quality control as far as the art on it, and they want to look cool, obviously, but like they're not doing their you know due diligence, I guess, in the sense of like plagiarizing other artists' art. So, are there other MTG artists that have been doing this as well? Like,
I'm
how
pulling.
deep does this go?
I know I wrote an article about this. I'm pulling it up right now. Here we go. I'm trying to.
Let's go.
Crux of Fate was one recently that
Mhm.
was found to be plagiarized from DeviantArt. So
Yeah.
DeviantArt is kind of an open source where you just like everybody talks about their fandoms
Mhm.
or their fan art and stuff like that. And then you can see like literally it was like that clip art thing. Like, let me just grab this, boom, right over
Right.
here. And there's parts where you can actually see where they did something to remove the DeviantArt logo too.
Right.
So it's pretty bad.
And I vaguely remember too that there's an artist pretty recently that was accused of using AI art
Yeah.
for background in the MTG cards as well, because they did another like reverse image search on whatever sites you do reverse image searches on. I guess
Yeah.
I'm not like a online journalist, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure how people find this stuff,
Yeah.
but it was like an exact copy of the background of that person's card that was created by AI art. And it was just
Yeah.
like, oh boy, I think we're gonna end up opening a whole can of worms here if we're gonna get into the AI side of things too.
For
Oh,
real, yeah. And
yikes!
Photoshop makes it even easier with their latest later updates now, where you can
Yeah,
just say take that subject matter,
right.
it'll perfectly crop it off, and then just extend
Mhm.
the background on it, and all of a sudden you have a background that makes sense. And it's like that's
Yeah,
just too easy sometimes.
yeah, dude. I know my brother is a photographer, and
Hmm.
he's done that with like his personal photos, like just
Yeah,
experimenting, messing around with it,
yeah,
and it's so funny some of the stuff that comes up with in the background, because
yeah,
like obviously it's background stuff, right? Like you're not meant to notice that stuff,
right.
and it's a lot of times it's out of focus because it's in the background. But like you look a little bit deeper into it, and yeah, there's like these inconsistencies. Like,
Hmm.
AI can never get hands right. They can't
I know.
spell. There's like
Yeah,
things that you can pick out about AI art that is pretty consistent
yeah,
so far. I'm sure there's probably going to be AI engines that people come up with that are going to be better in the
yeah.
future, but as of right now, that's what AI art sucks at. Like they can't do that
But
stuff.
it does great on other. I use AI all the time. Just it for a lot of different things. It's my
Sure.
partner in crime a lot of times. And one of the big uses I'm using for it now, that aspect on Photoshop, is when I'm cropping something that has to be the right size for a template. So a lot of like
Yes.
9x16s. If you guys know what stories are on Instagram, but that's the or whatever. I use that. So a lot of times when I need to get the person's face kind of within the middle or somewhere near the middle, I need to have the wall keep going above them or the sky or whatever. So you could tell
Mhm.
Photoshop, like, kind of put more sky up there or
Right. Yeah.
whatever it might be. And it does. And, it's not like I'm trying to sell it or anything like that, but it's
Right.
also fills in those gaps. And I recognize that, like, that could get dangerous if people start,
Right.
like, just replacing all images with it.
Right. Just replacing their actual images with AI
Yeah.
art. And I mean there's a difference. Like you're using it for your content creation. Like
Mhm.
these artists that are doing Magic the Gathering stuff are
Yeah.
literally selling their art. Like they're getting paid by Wizards of the Coast to
I know.
create art for them. Like it's just, man, it's a can of worms that you're going down a slippery slope when you start getting into that stuff. So yeah, I'm not sure where the future of Dave Fulton for sure, but like other or Faye Dalton, I'm getting the words mixed up. Faye Dalton for sure, but like other artists and the art in Magic the Gathering, and like you get, obviously you get the special cards that have like really cool art, and that's art that is created by really great artists,
Yeah.
and not to say that Faye Dalton is not a great artist, because he probably is, but you wonder if that's due to Magic or Wizards of the Coast being like, hey, like we got this deadline, we need this done by this time, and he's like, okay, well I got to come up with something for
Yeah.
this deadline,
It's the
and
deadlines
they
for sure.
just, yeah, who knows, but
Yeah.
the behind the scenes stuff, and with Wizards of the Coast laying off so many people too, you wonder if that's plays a part into it.
Yep.
The fact that they're just kind of the quality control thing that I mentioned earlier, do they have people looking into this stuff? Probably not enough
Yeah,
at this point.
their release schedule too has gone up dramatically. They're not only are
Yeah,
they releasing their own standalone lore
right,
cards, but they also have the Lord of the Ring tie-ins and whatever other tie-ins. And it's
right.
it's got to be. It's not like they increased the people; they laid people off, so it's going to be harder. And then referring back to the Crux of Fate, I do got to give them credit for this one. So this is the one they stole a dragon. I found the details on it. It was Jason Felix that stole the dragon from somebody named OMG Scary Pet, but what Wizard ended up doing was putting that guy's name on the card now. So
Oh,
it was like,
good,
that's
good.
perfect, because a lot
They
of the
gave them
times they
credit.
just need, they just need the
Yeah,
credit because
yeah.
that's how they
Like,
make
yeah,
their
throw their
money.
names on there for credit, and
What's it hurt?
then call it a day. Like that's
Yeah,
how you fix that situation. Like I put
exactly.
fix in quotations, because like
Yeah,
obviously the damage has already been done, but that's how you make a bad situation a little bit better.
right.
So yeah. All right, that's our new nerd news. Next up, we're going to be diving into Halo Season 2 and Invincible Season 2. We're going to talk about Halo first, because I hear Frank has a lot to say about Halo. So, but
Yeah.
what I want to do first, Frank, is we'll talk Season 2. So we're talking about the whole season. We're not going to
Right.
go deep into like every single episode or anything like that, but what are your non-spoiler thoughts on Season 2? How did it all coming together for you? Maybe even like coming into Season 2, what did you think
Mhm.
of Season 1? What is your overall thoughts of the Halo property being adapted to TV series? There's a lot of questions that I just threw at you, but like,
Yeah, that's right.
non-spoiler, all that stuff. What do you think?
So if you're a video game player, if you played Halo the video game and you're looking for a faithful adaptation, this might not be the best avenue for you. But there are definitely some things that they pull from the games that's going to make you very happy. Standalone, these are fun, action-packed series. They do have very serious moments with some intense dialogue, and some solid actors. Nothing crazy, but something solid. And I do feel like that. I feel like whenever it has a high moment, it has a very high moment, and it just nails it, but there can be lulls. There can be some missed opportunities. There can be characters that bring down an entire episode or sometimes even series. And so there's some of that going on. And I think for season 2 in particular, it had a great ramp up. We met that middle of the season, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, that's the best episode that they've ever done. And then all of a sudden, where do you go next? Well, you go into the first game. The first 2 seasons is setting up the first game, and we end off where we're going to be in the first game, but we're missing so many important things now, and they kind of jumped the gun on some other things. And so, is it a mess? Yes, but is it worth your watch? I think yeah.
All right. That's a great summary. Love that. I come into it with a limited knowledge of like Halo lore. Obviously played like multiplayer Halo with the buddies like back in high school and college.
Hmm.
But I think I maybe completed one campaign, and I couldn't tell you which game it was. So
Yeah.
I have no idea about much of the lore except for obviously Master Chief, because he's pretty much a legend. So
Yeah.
I come into it from a somewhat an outsider perspective, and I think that helped me. I liked season 1. Wasn't the greatest season of sci-fi television I've ever seen, but it was interesting enough to keep me watching and to
Right.
start me going on season 2. And season 2, I felt like improved on season 1. Generally, I think they did a much better job with the script and the acting in season 2. Like you said, it's not fantastic. It's not the best acting I've ever seen, but it's serviceable. It gets the
Mhm.
job done. And I think I did end up enjoying season 2. I don't know if I can say I enjoyed it a lot more than season 1. It still was maybe about average sci-fi television, in my
Yeah.
opinion. It was still good, still enjoyable. Glad I watched it. Not going to be on my top 6 list of TV shows in 2024.
I
So
would say yes. I agree with you. Season 2 was better than season 1, but I think the key difference is season 1 ended on such a high note because we had
true.
questions and action and oh my gosh.
Hmm.
Season 2 ended us off with like, hey, we hope works for you guys, but anybody who's played the video games knows like you guys just wasted your shot. And different things like that. There's a few things they did in the finale that were just like, that's unfortunate that you guys made that choice. you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So from here on out, this is spoiler territory.
here
So
we go.
if you have not seen Halo Season 2, make sure you go watch that, pause, come back, and listen. We already have your download. So honestly, you don't have to if you don't want to. I gotcha.
Yeah.
But this is your official spoiler warning.
This is
Prepare yourself.
an Infinity Bros.
Prepare yourself.
Spoiler warning.
All right, Frank, let's get into it. You say you have a lot of problems about the finale. Tell me about it. What
Well,
did you not like about the finale?
my biggest problem is the fact that if you guys are familiar with the Halo games, you know that the Flood is a really cool turn in the first game. And there are a parasite that basically it acts as a zombie attack. And you find out the point of the Halos is to destroy the Flood. And it's this really cool, like, third party that arises because the entire time you're like, oh, it's Covenant versus the UNSC. And it's very clear borderlines. And all of a sudden you guys have a common enemy. And that's really fun. Now, as a video game player, you know that's going to happen. But as a TV show watcher, I'd assume you'd be very confused by the finale because suddenly you're waiting for this conclusion to the Covenant storyline or the next big chapter to the Covenant storyline. Get to the Halo they've been mentioning for 2 seasons now. And suddenly there's an outbreak on the ship and people are fighting zombies off. And you're just like, what the hell? Like,
That was a shock. It
that
was
should be.
as a person who doesn't know the lore of the game, I was like, I'm kind of into it because I enjoy zombie storylines, but I
Yeah.
was like, where did this come from? It's just like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, we got zombies now.
And it's such a wasted opportunity because it makes for a really good moment in the first game when you're cruising along, you're fighting a very clear enemy, then suddenly a new threat pops up and both sides are getting chewed from behind their lines.
Mm, okay.
And then it sets up the Arbiter for Halo 2, who is a phenomenal character played by the amazing Keith Davis. So, okay, David, so when you lose him too, like all of a sudden you lose Arbiter at the finale of this thing, you're just like, oh my God, and you replaced him with McKee of all people.
Right. Oh man, so sad.
Yeah.
And McKee, she's unfortunately the least interesting part of both of these seasons to me.
Yeah.
I just like, she's not that interesting to me. I just don't really get why they're trying to force the storyline with her. I thought we were, and
I know.
everybody else
Yeah.
in the show thought we were done with her in season 1 as well. And then she comes
Yeah.
back in season 2 and they're like, oh, okay. All right. Well, here we go, I guess.
I liked how none of the marketing also, none of it showed that, I think her name was Quan, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
Great.
And then all of a sudden she pops up at the end of episode 1. You're like, oh, okay, they kept her too.
Oh.
Just, it's whatever.
And her I could live with. I enjoyed a lot more. And I like her storyline that she's got this like destiny that is kind of like leading her or whatever. Obviously she's like an original character for the TV series, but it'll be interesting. actually interested and invested in her storyline and where she plays in all of this. But yeah, it set up some cool stuff at the end of this season with her and Dr. Halsey and what's Halsey's daughter's name again? I forget her
I've
name.
just been calling her
But
Halsey's daughter.
yeah, Halsey's daughter. Like
Yeah.
there's some cool, interesting interactions because we get that episode. I think it's the leading up to the finale, that episode where they're
It's when
somewhere in there
things first start
where
to
they
break out, and they're in this ruins
yeah
area. Hmm.
yeah, so they're in that ruins area trying to break into the whatever. They don't even know what they're trying to break into, honestly, which is another kind of like
Yeah, I know.
we'll get past that. They're just like they just find this alien technology and they're so interested in it, and it really doesn't matter in the scope of things. Like, why are you so interested in this alien technology? But besides that, they finally bust into it. They get the parasite or whatever, and Quan Ha helps them break into the world laboratory, whatever they built there, that city that they call it.
Hmm.
And it's really cool, the reveal that Halsey was doing everything by math. Then
Yeah,
Halsey's daughter's like, oh well, you missed this part of linguistics. And there's they're in the background arguing, and then Quan Ha comes up and is like just like moving these things, and then the star map
yeah.
comes up and she's like, oh yeah, I've seen this before, and starts like moving, and Halsey and her daughter are both just looking at her like, what is happening right now? That was one of my favorite parts of Quan Ha's story so far, in my opinion. I loved her.
See, my thing with Quan is I actually liked the least. So I don't like the mystical side of her because I think she would be a very good tool for the show to represent like the citizens of the UNSC trying to fight for survival in a world that's constantly, wars constantly chasing them. Like there's so many things to use her for. And I think like Perez was a really good addition to this season because she
Yeah,
showed what it's like to be a grunt in the army. And instead they make her special, and there's no reason for that when what makes her special is the fact that she's just another citizen trying to survive. And I think we're
right.
losing that because she has like almost the ability to control the flood at one point in this thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I'm with you on that. Like, I don't really know how that's going to turn out, and still more interested in her, invested in her storyline than I am in probably most of these character
Yeah.
storylines, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, I don't know. I think she was one of the actors too that I think did a more successful job at being convincing, because there's a lot of them that, and Halsey is another one that I think she does, the actress that plays her, who I don't know off the top
I
of my
love
head,
me
she
some
does.
Halsey. Truman Show's where I remember her from, but I really
Oh
like Halsey.
my gosh, that I knew her from somewhere. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's awesome. Yeah, she does a great job. But like uh Pablo Schneider, I think is his name, that plays Master
Yeah.
Chief. I don't know, man. Like, and all of the um what do they call the
Like the interviews.
squad or whatever,
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, the
all of
in
those guys,
Spartan.
The
Yeah.
Spartans, yeah, all of the Spartans. I'm like, man, I don't know. They just they come off as which they are, like they're probably doing what they're written to do, but it's
Hmm.
just not that interesting. Like their
Yeah.
personalities are not that interesting.
It's more just like, hey, everybody, we're gonna be the same tone of aggressive military dude.
Right.
And they first off, you guys got all your pellets removed, so you guys should have emotions flooding in all the time. And then sadly, the guy who's gone first is the first one that's like, I like birds. Like it's such a new, unique idea. Um, but yeah, Master Chief. The key with Master Chief in the game is that you're leading from the front. You're an inspiration to the people around you. You're the one that can go in and
Yeah.
save their lives, knowing you'll be successful because your luck thing. And and unfortunately, it's just being like, I'm
Mhm.
angry. It's like we don't care.
Well, and yeah, this whole season was him doing things in the background. Like that was like the whole
Yeah.
concept of Master Chief just, I feel like, got lost, and you could even trace that back to season 1. And
Mhm.
again, I'm not a big lore guy, but like everybody was upset about Master Chief and taking off his helmet in season 1, right? Like that
Right.
was the big thing. He doesn't take off his helmet in the games. That's like a part of his character, is that he's kind of like, he's got this mystery about him. He doesn't take off
Right.
his helmet. And you just like totally threw that out the window, which, if you're going to do it for a good reason, fine.
Right.
But they did it in like episode 2, and it just didn't have any impact or for good reason, and it just continued that season. Like he
Yeah.
was in his helmet for maybe 2 of the episodes this season. Like,
It's expensive to have him in that
yeah,
helmet. So
right.
yeah, he lost it for a while there.
Yeah,
It's one of those things where I think on the surface level you could say, well, in the game you have to be Master Chief, so it's best to not show his face because then it's less easy to identify with him.
sure.
But in the show, it's Pablo trying to tell you a story of John, who is the Master Chief. I get that, but also, um, you know, we see it with the Mandalorian. They do
Hmm.
such a great job where every time the helmet comes off,
Yeah,
it's
right.
incredibly impactful. And in here, it's just like when the helmet comes on, it's impactful. And unfortunately, they finish this whole thing off with the cracked visor. So you're just like, you guys can't give us one damn thing. Like, come on.
And it was that part was so silly because like you see him in a previous like shot, no cracked visor, and then
Yeah.
they just cut to the end and he's got this giant hole in his visor, and it was like, when did that happen? Like
Yeah.
they were just literally doing it for that one cool shot of like panning out with the hole in his visor. It's like, come on guys, like that
Yeah.
was super unnecessary.
I think they're going for the Darth Vader vibe. Like when that happens to Anakin and the Obi-Wan series, it's
Right.
like, oh
Oh,
man, that's crazy.
so
But we
cool.
have multiple movies with Vader's only Vader in the full
Yeah,
helmet. You guys haven't given us that with
exactly.
Master Chief at all. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
oh man,
Didn't
yeah.
have the impact that I think they wanted it to have,
I
unfortunately.
really think they need to step back and realize, especially now that they're on the Halo, like they said, okay, season 3, we're going to start with the first game. Okay, then why was the first game successful? You're on your own. You're surviving by your wits. Cortana is your only family and friend. Like there's certain mainstays of the Halo franchise that I think the Halo show needs to return to. And you killed off a ton of people. It's fine. Like if you're going to kill off a ton of people, fine, I understand that. Yeah, I think you killed off the wrong ones because Halsey's on ice now, and Halsey's one of your more interesting characters. But
Yeah.
like, let's get back to just seeing Master Chief survive. And if you're going to use the Flood, use them as an impending doom for both sides. There are so many things that, like, the story is right there. Just follow it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think they, man, this whole show, honestly, I feel like they really, really, really wanted to do a sci-fi show and
Yeah,
just used Halo to do it. Like
agreed.
they didn't look at Halo and think, "Wow, we could tell this awesome story from Halo, like from this universe." They were like, "I want to do a cool sci-fi story. Let's use Halo to do it."
Yeah,
Like I even saw a meme or like a tweet or something that was like, "Yeah, basically this is Mass Effect, but they couldn't get the rights or the IP to
yeah,
Mass Effect, so they just slapped Halo skin on it and were kind of rolled with it." And I was
yeah,
like, hmm, okay, well, that I can't even really deny that, really,
yeah. And
because
there's
kind of
still another
accurate.
like 8 seasons of lore ahead of them that they could use. And it's like, do we
Yeah.
want you to though? Like, let's just wait a little bit. Steven Spielberg, I think, owns the rights to the production for this because he's had it for years.
Mhm.
And so when he first got it, I remember being excited, like Steven Spielberg make a movie about Halo, Master Chief, perfect. That he'll get it. And clearly he's just like, I'll just be executive producer. You guys handle this. And I will say, like, I don't want to be totally harsh on it too much. The CGI I think is fantastic. They're using a lot of the
Oh yeah.
like Star Trek has sometimes shoestring budget, but then pulls together some of the best CGI
Mhm.
you'll see, especially when you compare it to something like maybe Marvel or whatever that should have
Mhm.
better. And then again, the fight scenes, like that fight scene with Master Chief and Arbiter, was awesome. So it's just we don't get
Yeah.
them enough.
I totally agree. I think the visuals in the show are fantastic. That's
Yeah.
not the problem. Like they did a really great job with everything like CGI wise. I think all of the elites, the Covenant, they all look fantastic. The Spartan uniforms look great. Like
Yeah.
out of any sci-fi show, those Spartan uniforms got to be one of the best like looking costumes out there, right? Like they
Yeah.
look great. That's definitely not the problem with the show. The problem is that they couldn't, unfortunately, put a better story together around those positive elements
Yeah.
to pull together a complete show. It still did a good enough job that I'm still invested. I'll like if they get don't get canceled, I'll definitely
Yeah.
watch season 3. So we'll see what happens. But
Paramount Plus is
uh
pretty faithful with their IPs. I have a feeling it takes a lot for them to cancel something. They gave Discovery a good 2-3 seasons extra because of their
mhm,
loyalty to it, and I don't think they'll cancel it. I think like for me, in my opinion, as a podcaster, the way I look at it is this season we covered episode by episode. Next one we'll do the whole thing as a whole. Like it's downgraded to
Mhm.
that much for me, and that's fine.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I think and again, I'm somebody that pretty much loves anything that I
Right.
watch. Like I really enjoy just watching movies and TV in general.
Mhm.
So did I get enjoyment out of this? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Um, again, like you said, is this something that I'm going to pick over and pour over and invest a lot of my time into? No, because it's just really not that good of a show.
Right.
And again, I don't want to say it's not that good because we'll give our ratings here in a little bit, and I'd say I'm giving it a pretty favorable rating, considering the outrage online that people have had over this
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
So
I'm about
yeah,
there too.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's enough people hating it on the line that we can just say the basics, that ever summarize all of the things that people don't like about this show, and move on.
And a
So,
lot of the
but
hate's
yeah,
not justified. Some people just like to hate it because they see other people hating it, and it's like clickbait. Watch it
right.
and see the strengths in it. There's definitely something there.
I always think it's weird when people ask if they should go watch things. Like for me, I'm like, I don't really care what you think of a movie. I'm going to go watch this movie and see it for myself if I think it's
Yeah.
interesting. Anyways, like I don't think there's a lot of merit in completely trusting one person's taste. Like, are you
Right.
really going to tell or like listen to a review of this movie or this show and not watch it because somebody, told you not to? Like, go watch
Right.
it for yourself. You might enjoy it. Who knows?
Absolutely. And then when you're listening to reviews, including this one here or any review that I've ever done in the
Yeah,
past, there
absolutely.
look for the thing, like the person who's reviewing it should tell you like these are the things that I liked about it. And if you like those kind of things, go for it. Like for
Mhm.
X-Men 97, I was talking about how like hey, they did a really good job of blending the old with giving a clear direction for the new. And if that's the thing you're
Yeah,
looking forward
right,
to, then boom. That's kind of what I'm
right,
saying here too, is like if you are a loyalist to the Halo series and like nothing's gonna break you for the Halo games, don't watch this. But if you're open minded to a
right.
sci-fi story that happens to be in a Master Chief uniform, check it out.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I would repeat that sentiment without the uh Halo game attachment part. But like if you're looking for just like a decent sci-fi show that you want to turn your brain off to, this is
Yep.
not a bad one. Like
Mhm.
I think there are much worse shows that you could watch in your free time. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. All right, moment of truth. What was your rating of Halo season 2?
So out the gate, I would go 3 out of 6, but I think at this point, after kind of stewing on it a little bit, I'll go 4 out of 6.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty much right where I'm at. I'm like, I was debating between, so I gave Halo Season 1 a 3.5,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of thinking right about there, right about the same.
Yeah.
I would say that I rank Halo Season 2 above Season 1, but I'm pretty much right exactly the same. So I'd give it a 3.5 out of 6 as well.
That's
So
perfect.
decent ratings. And that's right at that mark. Like 3.5 is right at the mark where, yeah, I'll give that a rewatch. I
Hmm.
don't think I'll probably rewatch Halo, but it's right at the mark where it's good enough that I would if
Yeah.
I had, a reason to rewatch it. So decent enough.
Decent
It's
enough.
all right. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. It's our rating of Halo Season 2. And now we're going to get into something that we might be a little bit more positive about.
Yeah.
Invincible.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Invincible. For those of you guys who have been listening and watching the show, it came out with 4 episodes last fall, 4 episodes this spring. We just got done watching episode 7 of season 2. Again, this is on March 30th that we're watching this. I believe it came out on the 28th, if I'm
Yeah.
not
That sounds about
mistaken,
right.
a couple days ago.
Mhm.
So we got the finale coming up next week, which is kind of crazy to think about. It feels
Yes.
like this season has just been a blink. And honestly, you could almost say that about the whole Invincible show because they condense so much storyline from the comics into so little time and episodes in the animated show. But they do it in such a way that it fits
Yeah.
somehow. I don't know how they do it, honestly, because when I've only read like half of the first compendium of
Hmm.
Invincible, but like there's so much more that they don't go into in the show. Like there's like 6 compendiums. Like it's a pretty long comic. So
Yeah.
the fact that they are able to condense the storyline but still hit all the main story beats is honestly pretty incredible.
Yeah, I haven't read the comic books myself, and I was kind of trying to keep myself unaware of what's going on because it's like it'd be nice to have something that I don't know
Yeah.
the future of with like Marvel and stuff like that. That's not the case. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I do know generally where this is going, and I know the ending, but
Mhm.
yeah, it still feels like it's just not enough. I want more of it. Every time it's like already, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
for
and
sure.
and I think that this show does a really great job of kind of blending. Of course, I mean action that you wouldn't believe is allowed to be animated. It's so good and it's
Yeah.
so hardcore sometimes. And then like these human moments that are just heart wrenching or something like that. So
Mhm.
it's very well done.
Yeah, dude. Oh, they did actually. There was one moment in this episode that really actually got me kind of going here, but we'll give a
Yeah.
quick spoiler warning here. We won't play the bumper, but just if you're planning on going and watching Invincible, make sure you do that right now. We're going to get into some spoilers here, but we're going to focus on episode 7. But if you have anything that you want to talk about in season 2, totally fine. We can go back and chat about it a little bit. But this episode 7 was phenomenal. And I feel like the first part of season 2 honestly was a little bit slow moving
Hmm.
compared to, season 1. So the fact that we've gotten like 3 banger episodes in the
Yeah.
part 2, maybe that's why they took that big break. I don't know, to like build up the tension or something. Why do
Could
you think they
be.
did that?
Yeah, maybe it felt like you know what we needed to settle our debts with season one, maybe with the
Mhm.
rest of season two. So I think the first half of season two is very much kind of like, all right, this is what happened in season one. This is how we can look forward to the future because Omni Man, not Omni Man, is that the right one? Yeah, Omni Man. There's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many.
Omni-Man, yeah, yeah.
Uh, like after season one, you're like you just cannot forgive him ever. But now at this point, we're kind of like, well, we know he's gonna have to.
Yeah.
There's little options for Earth.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and I think it took a while for them to kind of like this is gonna be the future of this series, and now we're in the middle of that. Oh, it's moving quick, but yeah, it was a big break though.
Yeah, I know that, and we talked about that on the podcast. That like it's such an odd strategy when you've got like you got Amazon and they've been doing that weekly release format. You
Hmm.
got Netflix who just does the like drop them all and everybody can binge it. You got basically those two, and then we had this odd thing where they did the weekly for 4 weeks, like a 4 month break. Like it was
Yeah,
it last September or something, like a long break. And then we finally come back to it. And I was just like, man, I don't understand what they're doing with the marketing with this. It just,
Netflix is doing that too a little bit though. They'll like last Stranger
yeah,
Things was like part
true.
one, then part two, and it's just
Yeah.
let me enjoy my weekend and give me it all one time.
Yeah. Either do one or the other because like I
Right.
kind of like when they do the weekly because then I can
Absolutely.
space it out. Like, I can watch Invincible when it comes out, and then if I've got the Bad Batch comes out on Wednesdays, I can
Right.
watch that, and I don't have to like block off like 3 hours to
Yeah.
binge a bunch of that show.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice when it does that. I don't mind the weekly release format, but yeah, it was just so interesting. But like I said, the 3 episodes of part 2 that we've gotten so far are just bangers. Like every episode something big is happening. We're finally getting more action. That was another big thing in the first part. Was it was a lot of like Mark and Nolan resolving
Love that.
things and
Yes.
talking and learning the backstory on how Nolan got out there, all that stuff. We're finally getting into some action. And season or episode 6, we had pretty brutal like
It was hard to
Guardians of the
watch.
Globe
It was pretty
getting
bad.
massacred again.
God.
Rexplode gets shot in the head, then gets up and punches a guy with a bone sticking out of his arm.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. brutal. Just a brutal
Oh,
fight
the
action scene.
visuals were rough, man. Like when Rex get that bullet going out from the back of his head, or whatever,
Oh my
and like he's
gosh.
having a conversation, his eyes messed up, and he had that just
Yeah.
blood kind of squirting.
Blood's
Like,
like squirting with
brother,
oh my
please go down.
god.
You're done, man. Clock out for the
Yeah.
day. You're good. Stop
Yeah, this
fighting.
is one of those shows that I'm like, I don't want my wife or my parents to like walk in while I'm watching this
Yeah,
show
this and the
because
boys.
it's yeah, like The Boys, right? It's so or Game of Thrones, like it's so
Yeah,
brutal that you're just like, oh my gosh, like this is yikes, this is crazy. And the crazy part is that this is an animated show, like The
yeah,
Boys and Game of Thrones, like yeah, sure, yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens, but like in an animated show, you kind of expect it to be dialed down a little bit, and it is absolutely not dialed down. It is unhinged. The just gore and blood in this is just wild. So, anyways, yeah, we get Rex Splode back. He actually comes back in this episode, and him and Mark have a pretty cool scene where Mark like saves him, and they, Rex is finally like getting to be a real person. He's
mhm,
been this guy that has been, he uses just jokes and stuff to cover up everything that he is, and be a douchey person to cover up, everything that he is feeling. And he finally gets like real with Mark, and he's like, yeah, dude, I get it. Like him and Mark share this really touching moment, as there there are like bad guys dying around them because they just beat them up and stuff like that.
yeah. I'm so much more invested in Rex now after that conversation too, because it's like,
Same.
okay, finally, you're not a caricature of yourself.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Sokka, like from Avatar. After
Mhm.
season one, he starts to actually become an actual character you care about.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly, for sure. That's a good comparison. But yeah, Rexplode had a great part with that. We get an appearance of Anissa, of Viltrumite, that plays a pretty big part in the
Oof.
comics. I'm not going to say anything further
Okay.
because I don't want to like spoil things for people who haven't read the comics, and I
Yeah.
haven't read the comics that she's a part of. Like my comic stuff is already like
Yeah.
ended way back when like Mark was in high school. So like
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. The only thing I know from here on out is stuff that I've basically read about what happens in
Yeah. The
Invincible.
big
So
strokes. Yeah.
yeah, Anissa is a very important Viltrumite in the comics, and there's some really crazy stuff that happens
Ooh,
with her.
I'm so
So
excited now.
keep an eye on that character. It's gonna get wild. And if you thought the I don't know how they're gonna do this honestly, because there's some crazy stuff that happens between Anissa and Mark Grayson. So
Oh man,
I'll leave it at that. Definitely keeping your eye on that character because it's gonna get wild.
I'm gonna be googling
And you
after
kind of
this. I
see
know
that a
that.
little bit. Like she comes and she's like, your typical Viltrumite, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you got to do this, blah 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 blah. But we see in the last moments of that episode that she kind of is like, she kind of looks like she's having some internal like frustration about
Yeah.
like Mark is not giving in to her like demands, and she doesn't really
Mm,
get like why, like what is so important about Earth that Mark Grayson is defending it like with his life. So there's definitely going to be some things coming up, and she's potentially, I mean, I don't know. Again, they might do some different things with the interpretation of this character, but like you definitely can see the wheels turning in her head at the end of this
yeah.
episode of like, maybe the Viltrumite way isn't the best way. I don't know. We'll see.
And that's the thing, right? Is they have been for centuries now, kind of only the weak or only the strong survive, but they weren't
Mhm.
always that way. And so it's kind of nice to see some of that kind of like, wait a minute. And
Right.
in this episode is the first time Mark's learning about a different Viltrumite way because he's being told about it. But what I love
Right.
about her showing up is we think Nolan is the strongest guy in the galaxy. She shows up and she just rocks him so hard.
Just
And even they're saying like she's faster than Nolan. And it's just like, oh, there's
yeah.
an army of those out there. It's
Yeah.
scary.
That's the wild part. Especially like, oh man, when was it? I think it was at the end of was it the end of season 1 or towards the end? Yeah, it was the end of season 1 where Alan just got completely obliterated by those like 3 Viltrumite
Part 1. Yeah.
peeps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and was Anissa part of that? Now that I'm thinking back on it, I
She
don't
might have
remember if
been.
she was or not. She might have
It
been.
was,
I'd
I
have to
couldn't
go
believe
back
it
and
though. I was
watch.
like, what?
Yeah, Alan just gets decimated by these 3, and it's not a contest. Like he doesn't
No.
he doesn't get a punch in. These
Yeah.
guys completely obliterate him, and he's like pretty serviceable like fighter at
Mhm.
that point. And then I mean that's when you just realize like holy crap, there's a whole planet of these people.
Yeah.
Whoo boy, yeah, we have a lot of a lot of work to do. So yeah, it is crazy though when Mark comes up against these Viltrumites, because we finally like this season are starting to see like how powerful Mark really is. Like he can take down
Mhm.
these big bad guys, and then one of these Viltrumites shows up and just Mark gets his butt handed to him,
Yeah.
like again.
It's
It's like,
it's
oh my gosh.
it's interesting with Mark because you kind of explain where you could kind of understand where Nolan's coming from, right? They are
Hmm.
so powerful that you don't think of the feelings of the ant because you're not at the level of the ant, and you kind of get how Nolan's kind of that way. And with
Right.
this show, and I think it was like 2 episodes ago, we see Mark hops out of the spaceship to go take care of the other spaceships, and he doesn't kill the guys, but we see how effortlessly he destroys all the spaceships. And while I'm
Mhm.
watching that, I'm like,
Right.
man, the effortless way he's doing that reminds me of his dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, how much longer is he going to be at this power and still be relatable to the humanity around him? And we know even his relationships now straining because of that. So,
Yeah.
will we lose Mark? That's a question that's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned his relationship. This episode, we finally get Amber breaking up with Mark after almost a whole season of, oh, should we do this? Should we not?
Yeah,
I
for
don't
real.
know. So finally, and I shouldn't say finally, because this season I've actually liked Amber a lot more
Mhm.
because she obviously Mark dropped the bomb on her, like, hey, I'm invincible. This is why I'm doing all this stuff. And she's been a lot more tolerable because season 1, there was a lot of people upset about how, like, just what a terrible person she was. But, like, if you put yourself in her shoes, like, yeah, I think it makes sense how she's reacting to that. But at the same time, like, we're seeing Mark's perspective as well.
Right.
So I think a lot of people were upset about that. But she's been a much more tolerable character this season.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's interesting to see how their relationship develops, and how we'll, in the future probably see Mark hook up again with another character that we've already seen.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
we're all kind of waiting for that one, right? Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure that the friend group, when they found out about Mark and Amber, were like, "Hey, they finally broke up." Like, oh, thank God! Now we can stop
Right? Yeah.
pretending like we care for each other. So, like it was just everybody was talking behind their back, like these two are the worst
Right.
together.
Like, yeah, yeah. There's you kind of saw it, the writing on the wall at the
Yeah,
beginning of the season. Like this wasn't gonna last. Like it's fine. They finally just did. That's why I say finally, because
yeah,
like, yeah, it just wasn't gonna work out. And they both part on pretty good, like mutual, ways. Like Mark obviously gets why. Uh but he did try, like, to his credit, like dude finally was like, yep, I'm taking 2 nights a week off. um we're
yeah,
we're not going to do the superhero thing for a couple nights. I'm actually going to spend time with you. And then the very next scene, he gets called away to go save Rex. And it was just
yeah.
like, yep, all right, well, it's just how it is.
And that's the thing too, is that's where he might lose some of his humanity, is the fact that like you
Hmm.
don't get to take a night off, not when you're that strong, not when you're
Hmm.
literally the one person holding back the entire Viltrumite army. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So yeah, and yeah, man, we got that huge Viltrumite empire that is coming for him soon. So crazy stuff. There was one more scene that I wanted to talk about before we get to the very last part of that episode. Was so we get Rick, who is this guy who saved
yeah,
Invincible, and what's his friend's name? William, I think. William.
William, yeah,
In season 1, and he gets rebuilt the same as Donald, right? Like basically is a cyborg at this point.
hmm,
And he's having a really tough time coming to terms with like how they kind of stripped him of his humanity, and they, removed some of his memories so he wasn't so traumatized about that whole situation. And he's like, he's up on the roof, he's about to, potentially jump, which may or may not kill him because he's more machine than
Yep.
man at this point. But I think they even reference that too. They're like, do you think this is high enough? I don't
Yep.
know, but we might find out. But he's having a hard time, and Donald comes, and man, this is the moment. Like, I don't even know if I've ever cried or had like the type of emotions that I've had during this whole show, but this scene got me. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, so Donald is finding out that he has died like tens of times. I think he mentions like 39 times in the scene that he's died.
Yeah.
And he chose, apparently, which I'm kind of wondering if Cecil is even telling him the truth about all this. By the way, I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
there's Cecil is a guy that's always got something up his sleeve, so I
Of
would
course.
not be shocked to find out if Cecil has not been fully truthful about this whole Donald situation. But he finally finds out that he has been dying and getting his memories taken away. Initially, they tell him that was his choice. Like, he wanted to do that so it wasn't so painful for him to remember all of those. But he also is having kind of a hard time coming to terms or grips with his humanity, and how,
Yeah.
he has these flashes of memories that are coming back to him about being killed. And obviously that would be terrifying,
Oh my
like,
gosh.
especially if
Yeah.
you actually died
Yeah.
40 times, So, but man, they have a wonderful conversation, and Donald is able to like connect with Rick and be like, hey, I know what you're feeling right now. I get what you're going through. And I was like, man, that level of connection, I feel like, is
Exactly.
something that we haven't really had so far in this. And obviously we've have good connections. We have, Mark has some good relationships. His relationship with his mom is one that always is like a very, very touching relationship. But man, that one scene, man, it got me. It was a very powerful scene, and just really cool to see Rick, respond. He finally steps off the ledge and comes back and kind of breaks down. But it was really cool. I love that scene so much.
It was really well done, and I think it mirrors a lot of what we're seeing some of the other characters deal with. That level of connection when both people feel like they're alone in the world, but really there
Mhm.
is one other person who feels like that, and it reminds me much
Right.
of Mark and his dad being the
Yeah.
only ones that feel like themselves. And then again, like I mentioned before, what does your humanity mean? How much are you losing it by servicing for other people? And that's one thing that Donald mentions is like, I kept doing it because it was to help other people, but then like what is left of me? And that's exactly what we're seeing right there with Mark is he's losing his humanity, his
Yep.
relationship with Amber and
Right.
whatnot for service of other people. And so I think it was very well said, and
Right.
kind of laid down what was going on in the episode as a whole.
Right. And I think, I mean, you kind of spoke about it a little bit. I think that speaks to the depth of this story, like Invincible in the comics, and this TV series as well. That I feel like this is a really relatable show. Like, obviously these are superheroes, and
Right.
and Mark is at a power level that we're never going to be at,
Mhm.
obviously. But they're really bringing it down to these human feelings and emotions that
Yep.
almost everybody can relate to, like, breaking up with a loved one, and the depression and death, and feeling like no hope and stuff like that. Like, that those are some really relatable feelings that me, as I'm watching, like, I can connect with, even if I haven't obviously been rebuilt as a robot. But but
Yeah.
those feelings of humanity are just really cool, and something that I feel like is just going to continue getting better as we build on these characters' stories.
Yeah. It's amazing how this show about a bunch of Supermans is does such a great job of kind of like
Right.
explaining humanity in such a simple way, and
Mhm.
also the fear too. I think is one thing that they do a really good job
Yeah.
of expressing fear to through characters that feel invincible,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why Spider-Man has always been one of my
Yep.
favorite characters, is because he's so relatable. Like, he's saving the world, saving, the neighborhood, but then he returns to his crappy apartment and he has to pay his rent. Like the dude, like, just is, he has the humanity that a lot of these other superhero characters, it sometimes gets lost because you get into these big cosmic stories about saving the world, saving the universe. And it's like, okay, those are really cool. Obviously, like, I love reading those stories, but where is, like, how am I relating to that? And the connection just for me was so strong with Peter Parker living his normal life and, like, struggling as an everyday person. And that's what we're getting with Mark. Like, he's trying to go through college. He's trying to do things like normal people do.
Yeah.
And because of that superhero side of him, he's like struggling hardcore. So yeah, a lot of really cool, relatable moments in this season. One more part that I wanted to talk about. The very last scene in episode 7, we finally get Angstrom Levy back again, which is the big brainy guy. He kind of, like, I honestly forgot about him.
Yeah.
It's been
Me too.
almost the whole season since we saw him. I think he was, like, back in episode 2 was his story.
Yeah,
Like,
he like went to another dimension. It was like, okay, bye.
yeah, see ya.
Yeah.
So he finally shows up again and he calls Mark on Debbie, his mom's cell phone. And so we got this cliffhanger of like, oh, this dude means business. And he, obviously, this is like, going back to episode 2 or whatever it was, where Mark came and saved the day and blew up his warehouse and kind of deformed him like that. So this
Right.
is all revenge for Angstrom Levy.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where this story goes. I don't know much about him. I haven't looked into him, and I'm kind of okay with leaving it at that. Like,
Yeah, no, kind of nice.
I think it was a nice cliffhanger and leading into the finale. The thing I like about this season is that it feels like just a continuation. Like, you can tell that they're planning on doing a lot of seasons. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like they're just building up to this one big episode in the finale, which it probably will be, and we'll probably get a cliffhanger or whatever. But it doesn't feel like the finale is the end all be all, like, best episode of the season, type thing. And I kind of almost appreciate that, I feel like, because so many
Yeah.
shows get caught up in the got to build up to the big finale, especially some of these, Disney Marvel Plus or Disney Plus Marvel TV shows. Like, they get so caught up in, like, building up to this finale that the whole show just gets rushed, and the finale ends up being just rushed and kind of dragged down by all the stuff that they try to pack into it. So it's kind
Yeah.
of nice to get a show like Invincible where it doesn't feel like it. Like, it feels like they're just going to keep continuing the story.
Yeah, the show's not structured like a show, it's structured like a comic book,
Yeah.
where, we'll have an overarching story that might take a while, Crisis on Infinite Earths, but meanwhile, we have to see what Flash is doing, and so we're
Yeah.
getting a little bit of that, and, I wanna also give a quick shout out to the fact that Sterling K. Brown voices this guy, so, I mean, the voice acting on Invincible is
Mhm.
impeccable.
Oh, it's such a great cast.
Yeah.
So many good actors and actresses voicing this show.
Yeah, Sterling K. Brown too. I could just listen to that guy talk all day, and him being a bad guy, like, he's usually so
Yeah.
sympathetic, and so as a
Let's
bad guy,
go.
oh, I'm in.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm all in on this guy because, like, he seems like a good guy, right? Like, when he shows up in episode 1, episode
Yeah.
2, he's like trying to help, like,
Mhm.
humanity, and then Invincible interrupts his plans, messes him up. Now he's just got a vendetta.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see his angle, unless it's just a purely revenge, which, if he seems like a powerful character. So it'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see how Mark can handle his power set, because he can't just go and punch this guy, because he probably could just, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see an action scene with him, if he'll be like jumping through dimensions and stuff like that. He doesn't seem like a super agile character with all the
No.
brain stuff on his head.
Yeah, that would slow you down a bit, but it does seem like, it reminds me in Spider-Man 2, the video game that just came out recently, the whole Black Cat
Mhm.
scene where she's able to teleport
Yeah.
around and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Like, you don't have
Yeah.
to be jumping on walls, you could just teleport around to be
Great.
awesome
Yeah.
like that.
Exactly. Yeah, and we kind of got a Rick and Morty, portal that he
Yes.
that he was going through early in the season. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll be flipping through portals and stuff while he's fighting Invincible, and Invincible will have to probably think about and adapt to a different fighting style for this guy. So should be
Yeah.
an interesting finale. Very much looking forward to the finale of Invincible season 2.
One of the portals, real quick, one of the portals he went to looked like the Walking Dead world, had zombies in it. Robert
Yeah.
Kirkman. I was like,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yep. Yeah, it could be. Could be. You never know.
That'd be
Yeah, so a
fantastic.
lot of cool things to look forward to. Moment of truth again. What would you rate? Let's go. You could just go the whole season if you want, or if you're very
Let's do the whole.
specific,
Let's do the season
whole
as a
season.
whole then.
All right,
Yeah,
season as a
because
whole, what would you rate it right now?
the beginning of the season brings down the end of the season a little bit. I would say
Yeah.
it's a solid 5 out of 6 probably.
I think that's where I'm sitting too. I would definitely give it I think I would even give it a 5.5 out of
Yeah,
6. I
that's
think
fair.
it's really solid. First season, 6 out of 6.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. I think if they nail the finale, I still don't know if they can really compare to season 1. They're dealing with so many different storylines now, and they're still doing a really great job at incorporating all those storylines and giving them their proper due and all that stuff. But I think there's a little bit more in this season to wrap your head around. You got to do a little bit more thinking in this season than we did in season 1. Man, I feel like there's a lot of shows that you can just go back to that first season and it's just great, simple storytelling. And
Yeah.
that was the season 1 of Invincible. So we're getting a little bit more complex, and I think it's taking a little bit to develop all of those storylines. So still would give it a 5.5 though. It's still very good. This is one that'll probably make my list for the end of the year. I think although there are so many good shows coming out in June, like we talked about on our Patreon version of this podcast, we got a lot of good shows coming out. So I don't know, maybe it'll make the cut just at the very bottom of the list or something like that.
It's great. Even just already like Shogun and it's there's so many things out
I've
right now
heard
that are
so many
good.
good things about Shogun. Yeah, I definitely need to start that one.
That's good. Yeah. Beautiful.
Awesome. Good recommendations. Well, thank you so much, Frank. We are going to wrap it up here, but any more thoughts about Invincible season 2 before we kind of wrap up the show?
Here's one. If you guys have VR, watch it in VR. It's fantastic in VR.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Okay,
Well,
tell me more now. What you can
I like to watch it in
VR?
VR because if you have like the Meta or whatever, the Prime app
Sure.
puts you in a theater, and it's probably the best version of a theater I've seen in VR, where it actually feels like you're actually in there and it darkens the room, but you can look at the chairs around you and stuff like that, and you are fully engrossed. Because I know there's one of the hard things is to not check your phone. Well, if you're in VR, you're not checking your phone, and
That's true.
you could choose what size of screen you want, stuff like that. And so I go all the way big. Those fights look incredible in VR.
Wow. Okay. I didn't even know that was a thing. So might have to check that out. Cool. Watch it in VR. There you go. All right, Frank. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can we find you on the internet?
Just Google Geek Freaks or Challenge. Geek Freaks you'll find on Google. Challenge accepted. Follow the links.
You'll get there eventually.
Yeah, definitely How I Met Your Mother took that one up for us. So.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. And thank you so much for joining us, Frank. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the Infinity Bros podcast.
I've loved it. It's been great. Yeah.
And thank you, listeners, wherever you're listening, however you're listening. Thank you so much for making us a part of your podcast experience. Make sure you check out theinfinitybros.com for all of your Infinity Bros needs, or you can email us at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com. We love you 3000. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube at the Infinity Bros. You can also check out our website at theinfinitybros.com for links, reviews, and sweet merch. Feel free to send listener feedback via social media or email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.